Story like the back of my hand, 'cause I've heard it all before. You always say that you're the one that's in demand, and I don't know the score.
Well, death and taxes are the only certainty. Well, 20% of people of society. Yes, I have made it on my own in this world. Well, nothing to get a turn around a 2-year-old. I'm gonna stop the old nation and do my own thing, 'cause I will be king. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation. Well, let me talk a bit about the weather. You must admit it's not very clever. Don't get me wrong, it's not an anti-British song. Well, there is nowhere I would rather be wrong. I'm gonna stop the old nation and do my own thing, and I will be king. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation. There are just a few things that I would like to say about the UK and how I think it has gone astray. Don't get me wrong, it ain't all bad. I love the crazy fads, like England always buggering up, but you know we're gonna win the World Cup. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation. I'm gonna stop the old nation from the self-preservation.
Keep the red flag flying here.
I know. I was just looking at this comment by Rochelle saying, "So who wants to dance?" And then it says, stop spamming symbols, warning. And I thought, oh no, what's going on here? So basically, I was a bit away with the fairies at the bottom of the garden for a short while. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's so lovely to see you. And thank you for joining in with us. Thank you to those loyal listeners who come on live every week. This is the 56th show. I mean, how unbelievable. And many of you have been with us the entire time. And then to the hundreds of the people across the world who are looking in to see this on podcast and in other ways. Welcome to you as well. We have today the same team. Stuart Sutherland.
Hello.
Stuart's our Mr. Serious and our sort of captain, end it with a really deep statement. And sort of, hello, Paul.
Hello there, everyone.
Paul's the boss, and sort of he's the tech genius as well. And sort of
I looked like a genius when we're all in the wrong places when we turned up. It's a really good start.
This time I've put us as a line down the side of my screen because I've got that much going on the rest of the screens, so I can't see us in our little boxes. He's sort of, there's a little issue, people, with sound. We think we've fixed it. Let's put it this way: Paul thinks he's fixed it, but sort of we'll see how that goes. Laura is back with us. Hi, Laura.
Hello. All right.
Just so good to see you. For anybody who's new to the show, Laura keeps dropping out because she believes we need to ring the changes, and she organises the most exciting string of replacement people to come in and take her place. It's tremendously generous of her. But Laura, I'm so sorry, but I just prefer it when it's you. And
thank you.
That's I get into trouble off other people for that. The sort of the guests we've had on the show have been spectacular and always presenting something new, I think, but there's something special about you. No, Samantha. She's trapped in a parish council meeting. She's on agenda item 19 out of 38. So she doesn't think she'll manage to be with us. Such are parish meetings. God bless you all. I've said hello to everybody. I think let's go. We start by telling you my moment of the week. And I'm sorry that I'm talking too much at the beginning of the show, but it's the last show before the holidays, so we get a bit of flexibility. I went out today with my wife up onto the Yorkshire Moors. We bought an ice cream in Goathland. We went and sat and ate it with this stunning, beautiful scenery. And
oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know how that happened. I'm so sorry.
Just to recap, Paul is our tech genius.
It's all going so well.
And we got back from the Moors, and do you know, I didn't have to worry about petrol. I just plugged in my car to recharge its battery. And then we went in, and Barbara says, have we got any bread? And I said, no. So I just took some ingredients and chucked them in the bread maker, and we've got bread. What an amazing world we live in. I realise for you people, this is sort of all normal, but wow, what an amazing world. It's full of beauty and wonder and a technology that just makes it so convenient for those who have access to it. And there's the message, isn't it? Let's see what other people's moments of the week are. Stuart, what was your moment of the week?
Mine is a conversation between my daughter and my wife. Now, my daughter comes up with some, real incredible gems of things like most children do. And how it took place was they were both sat in the car, and Boris Johnson was on the radio, and he was telling people about coronavirus and masks. And Alex she says, is that the Prime Minister? My wife says, yes, that's Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. And she asks, is he an idiot? At which point, my wife had to say yes. So, like, 8-year-olds are picking up on the fact that this fella isn't right for the job.
It's, I mean, there's so much we could talk about that. Cummings was on again last week, wasn't he? Being honest about him. Had a much greater impact this time, sort of from people I've been talking to, than the previous times. And of course, today we've had, he's going to bring back chain gangs, isn't he? Have you heard that on the news? Sort of, we want tougher sentences and we want people out there in chain gangs with fluorescent jackets, visibly repaying their debt to society. That's where we're heading, deep south. Thank you, Stuart. Paul, what's your moment of the week?
I got a new tooth. I had a chipped tooth, and I went to fix that at the dentist. So I can grin now. Fully there. It was a bit of a. It was a. When I got my nose done in before, if those of you who've been watching for a long time, and that episode where I had a completely splattered nose across my face, and then the several weeks afterwards, it had also chipped my tooth, but it took a while to come out. So yeah, I had a nice chip in my tooth, and everyone's either been super kind or haven't noticed. So yeah, it's been a couple of months now. I'm back to full tooth power. It feels really, really weird. So there you go. These are the perils that we have when we are teachers. Things can happen to your nose and to your teeth, but nothing that re-breaking your nose and getting a new bit of tooth wouldn't fix.
It hurt? Did it hurt? Have they given you a crown or have they just repaired?
No, it's a filling. It's a filling, but it looks like a tooth. So, yay.
Well done. Well, sort of Laura will no doubt be delighted that you're back to full beautifulness, Paul. And maybe we might sort of talk about the problems facing the dentists when we talk about the crashes in the NHS. And Laura, moment of the week, apart of course from appearing on Political Unmuted, what is your moment of the week?
I mean, I'm not sure anything really beats that. So this week's been really difficult because there are so many rubbish things happening. I could have picked anything, but you know what? For the last one, I'm going to be positive. And so my moment of the week was I've literally just finished about half an hour ago maybe. I was on a panel discussion for a book launch for the Matchstick Girls memorial. They're a campaigning group, and they've put together a book full of poems about the Match Girls, and it was really beautiful and amazing. And I was on a panel with some women who honestly were just the most incredible women ever. Me, imposter syndrome was kicking right in massively, but it was really lovely to be invited, and it just felt really special. It felt like a special thing to be part of, and I'm really honoured that I got asked to do it, and I really enjoyed it. Once I got over the fact that I might be a little bit sick, I really enjoyed it and got stuck in about trade unionism and socialism and equality and all that. It was brilliant. Loved it.
And what is the aim of that group?
So it's to memorialise the Matchstick Girls who were the women who worked at the Matchstick factory in London many years ago, 1800s, who were basically the forerunners to strike action. Really, a lot of people think the dock workers down there were the first strikers, but if the Matchstick Girls didn't go on strike, the dock workers wouldn't have. And it was just to campaign and strike against, the working conditions were so bad. They were basically not getting any breaks. They were coming out with the thing called phossy jaw. The chemicals they were working with were rotting their jaws, so they didn't have a jaw, and the teeth were falling out and rotten, and they had to eat from the same place that they worked with these poisonous chemicals from, stuff like that. So they're trying to get a statue in London to represent them. But it was a whole discussion around like, yeah, statues are amazing, but you can't just have a statue, you've got to have the education behind it. And yeah, it was just really wonderful. Absolutely loved it. And some of the poetry that's in this book, I am going to share the link on Socialist Think Tank later. We had some of the people who'd written the poems come and read them for the event, and they were really emotional and really lovely, and definitely solidified that link between stories and reality. It was like, you know, a lot of people will have heard of the matchstick strike, but this really brought it home, like this was something that really happened to people, and it was really real and dangerous and scary, and it was really emotional and just lovely. Really pleased to have been part of it.
Yes, absolutely brilliant. And you're absolutely correct. That sort of, if we don't know where we've come from, we don't, and we'll be dealing with this later today, I'm sure. If we don't know where we've come from, we don't realise the true horror of what we're losing. I think that applies particularly to the NHS. So we'll go on. Right, well, thank you for your moments of the week. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for, no, I wasn't at Gothland with Joe Solo, but he's welcome to come anytime he wants. Yes, it is beautiful, and yes, the trains do go through there. And somebody here is saying that the word strike, I always used to think it was funny, a joke, that the match girls struck, because you strike a match, don't you? But actually there's somebody here suggesting that that's where the word strike comes from, which is rather interesting. I wonder whether that's true. I'd love to see some backup. Neil, if you know a backup on that, that would be absolutely wonderful to provide that, because I didn't know that. Right, let's move on, Paul.
Now it's time for the big story.
What we wanted to do this week, as we get ready for our August break, was to just sort of look at the state of the nation. And so this is a state of the nation political immunity. And we just sort of looking at some of the crises that we're facing, and the question for all of them is just how great is this crisis, and how worried do we need to be? And the first one, though, and that is you chosen the poll that you want to talk about, the crisis that you want to talk about first, is what you see as a crisis in government. Stuart referred to that. Even his daughter is aware that there is a crisis in government. It was exacerbated, of course, by Dawn Butler. There's the continual stories of sleaze. Paul, how great is our crisis in government?
I think it's absolutely huge. I don't think people actually realise people are very, very busy, aren't they? And people are really struggling to comprehend what is going on, because everyone is so involved in their own lives, because, you know, everyone's working harder, and it's actually the symptoms of this terrible government, the symptoms of the terrible system that we're in, actually exacerbate the problems. And even if people aren't apathetic, I think the time that they have to spend on paying attention to this stuff is just really, really super depressing. We're on this trajectory where things are consistently getting worse. So we've got like government ministers lying and not resigning anymore. And that's very, very important, because, you know, I think people didn't understand with Dawn Butler this week what had happened. So Dawn Butler accused Boris Johnson of lying, which he clearly has. It's factually true. But you're not allowed to do that, because in the old days, that would have been such a dishonourable thing to have done, to have lied. You have to correct the record, and you sort of had to assume that if they weren't, like, that's why they say, you've got to correct the record and you misspoke and things like that. That's why they say that, you know, it's not lying. That's why they do it, because it would be so outlandish for someone to have done that back in, you know, whenever Parliament was first started. It just simply wouldn't have happened, and if it did, that would have been an offence where you probably probably talking treason. Whereas like now, they just lie all the time, and that's how they behave. They're not really interested in whether or not something's true. from what I gather, Boris Johnson doesn't necessarily believe in truth or untruth. He just kind of just goes, well, it doesn't matter as long as people go along with what you say. He's not really. He's got a different relationship with the truth than many of us have. So he's willing to lie. Obviously, Matt Hancock lies all over the place. You've got Gavin Williamson, who was accused of treason at one point in May's government and sacked. Now, whether or not treason was debatable, whether or not he deserved to be sacked was not debatable at the time. He deserved, and then he's a minister again. Priti Patel, similar situation. She was accused of offering the foreign aid budget to the Israeli army on a trip to Israel. Now, she had nothing to do with defence, and she shouldn't have been doing that. So she's going and doing these things. And then Dawn Butler calls him out for lying, and they're like, oh, get out, you can't possibly think that he's lying. But he is. Boris Johnson is a liar. And we know this. He's willing to say all sorts of horrible racist things. I don't know how to describe this crisis properly, because that's only a small part of it. It's giving contracts to their friends. It's using public money in a way. You've got these people who are even pretending to be libertarians. Now, libertarians don't believe in government. They don't believe that government should be involved in anything. But actually, they're saying they're libertarian, but they actually believe that the public should pay for the private sector. They believe they should bail them out. They believe that they are entitled to this cash cow that is the NHS to them, because that's what they see it as, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So we're in this situation where, these people are acting so dishonourably, and we can't trust them. And we'll get onto the other aspect of this as well. The opposition really aren't holding them to account on this one, which is why it almost seemed like a revolutionary act that Dawn Butler saying, you're lying. I accused the Prime Minister of lying. I'm not going to take that back. It is true. And this almost seemed like an act of revolution, because, what someone else will have the quote about a revolutionary act, like telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's where we are. We're in double speak. We're in all these things that George Orwell warned us about, where they'll change their mind on a policy mid-sentence, and then all of a sudden that's what they've always believed, and there was never herd immunity. Remember that. So I've gone on for quite some time. I could probably ramble for the rest of the show, so I do apologise. This is just an absolute horrible mess, and I really don't see the way out of it. I think we need a massive systemic change in order to deal with this. Power should come from below and be given to people at the top, but we are going further and further away from that. We're either working for a kakistocracy or a plutocracy, oligarchy, whatever you want to call it. The people are not in charge of this country and have very little say, and are either apathetic or far too stretched to actually deal with it.
Thank you, Paul. Stuart, of all the things that are wrong with the government, where would you put which do you think is the most significant?
Well, this one, the willingness to try to con people, the openness to lie in such a way that it's all the things that you teach a child not to do, they are very willing to do. That's their bread and butter. That's their day-to-day life. They wake up in the morning and must have to wonder, what lie am I going to tell first? And you don't accept it from a bairn. You wouldn't. Why should we all accept it from a government? And I'm shocked that most people don't get really angry about this. It's disgusting behaviour, and they are, it's supposed to be our leadership and our examples, and they get away with it just so easy.
Do you think, Stuart, that the coronavirus has made it easier for them to do this, that people have forgiven the government more because there was this big crisis and they regarded that as the real thing, and the government lying to them was no big deal in comparison to that? Or sort of, do you think that there's something else at work which is leading people to turn a blind eye to this?
I'm not sure. When the pandemic hit, it was like a mist. They kind of shielded a lot of what was going on, and people would forgive certain actions. It's like, it's because we're in a pandemic. And now you kind of get this feeling that people appreciate the lying. It's like, well done on it. Well done for Matt Hancock lying. If I was him, I would have done the same. Cracking job at all that lying. And it's as if people now appreciate the value of dishonesty, as if that's the way forward.
Laura, I've got an article here, Sleaze fells Tory governments. Do you think that this will bring down the Tory government in the end, even if it seems to be having no effect now?
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm sort of I guess I've gotten to the point where I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist about the whole workings of the parliamentary system, in that I think this government is being propped up and allowed to be here for a reason. Let's face it, they've lied, they've done things that are completely abhorrent, they have clearly worked against the working class people. I almost feel like now it's a game to them to see what they can get away with, and they just keep getting away with stuff. It's terrifying, but they are backed up by the mainstream media, by rich moguls, by huge corporations led by people you will never have heard of. So they can do what they want, and like Paul rightly said, not normal working class people are just far too busy trying to get through the day, desperately trying to struggle, that they haven't got time to sit and read political theory, or even get involved in what happens on a Wednesday at PMQs. It's just like, why would they waste their time doing that? Their precious time that they have very little of. There's just no reason they do that. And so the whole sleaze thing, and I think for me, they can, instead of they can do no wrong, they can literally do no right, but it doesn't seem to touch them. Eventually, I think the stuff they're doing now will be used against them to get rid of them or to get rid of Boris. But it won't be because he deserves it. It'll be because it's a planned action. It'll be the next thing they plan. Okay, so he's served his time, he served his purpose. Maybe the feeling isn't that he's doing that, so we're going to move on now. It will be planned, and we'll go, we've got this laundry list of reasons to say this is not working, this is no good. And there is the argument as well that the Labour Party do have a position in that as well. I'm a Labour Party member, proudly so, up until very recently. And there is a history there. Margaret Thatcher said her greatest achievement was Tony Blair. And so I think there's a part to play there as well. Once there's an argument that the Labour Party are there when to come in and do a stint when the Tories are out of favour, and they'll come in and they'll do a little bit of time, and then the Tories will get back in again. So it's not, it's not. I realise it's a big conspiratorial of me and everything, but it just seems like fact to me. It seems really obvious to me that is the way we're going. And also, I really feel like I need to say this. The word strike is not from the Match Girls. I thought it was as well, and I researched it. It's not. It's actually from merchant sailors in the 1700s. People used to get rid of the sails, and it was called struck the sails, remove the sails, so that they couldn't sail anymore. And that's where the word strike comes from. But it'd be much better if it was from striking a match. That sounds cooler.
It always struck me as being a huge joke. I've got some fantastic comments on here. Jane Strange is on fire tonight. We definitely need systematic change. Dawn Butler calling it out so publicly can be the start of that, hopefully. I mean, the key thing about Dawn Butler is that it was just absolutely against the rules of Parliament. She just broke the rules of Parliament and then refused to back down. And Paul's right, that's the beginning of a revolution. And then she comes in later on. People say all politicians are the same. We need to make sure that that's not true. We're here to hold them all to account, to uphold the standards. And somebody later on was that's why they hated Corbyn, because he was different. I absolutely agree with that as well. Neil Terry appreciates what Paul said about people being too stretched. And then there was another one further up. The Tories hold and treat the Nolan standards with contempt. Just fabulous comments. Thank you, everybody. Keep them coming. Paul, sort of, if you had to make a fuss, before we move on, if you had to make a fuss about one thing, which would you say was the one to hang your hat on in terms of a campaign? Tory lies or Tory sleaze?
Out of those two, I think for me it's the sleaze. But I don't like. I think sleaze suggests that they're having affairs and things like that. Like, I don't care what anyone does in their own time, in their own personal lives, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. What the kind of sleaze I'm talking about is the fact that you've got Russian oligarchs buying time with the Prime Minister as a matter of routine. You've got people giving contracts away, and this matters. This really, really matters, because they are doing socialism for the rich and capitalism for everyone else. They think it's absolutely appalling at the idea, really. Like, they really don't want to see the welfare state. We're seeing the upgrade of universal credit being taken away. Like, it's, and, you know, yet we've seen something that cost Ireland 5 million cost us 34 billion. And that's the test, track and trace, and it doesn't work, clearly. And how has it managed to cost so much? You've seen Hancock given a contract to test tubes for a fella from his local pub for 5 million quid. It's like, this is public money. I'm never say taxpayers' money, by the way. When it comes to something like Durham County Council, yes, it is taxpayers' money. That's a different thing. But the government can create money, and it depends. What the important thing is where that money ends up. Does that money end up with a billionaire and subsequently in the Cayman Islands not being taxed? Or does it end up in your local community? At the moment, it's ending up in the Cayman Islands. So that deficit that you see, the difference between how much they get back in tax and how much money they create, which they always do every single year, it's not really a problem. Where does that money end up? That's what you need to be thinking about. In the sleaze model, has it ending up in the Cayman Islands? And to me, you know, if that wasn't happening, the sleaze would still be absolutely terrible, but it's unforgivable. And then you have you have billionaires like Richard Branson or Jeffrey Bezos and stuff who use these tax loopholes. I know he's not from the UK, but he's based in the UK. Amazon make money in the UK and don't pay UK tax. Just like really, really giving us the middle finger by jetting off to space in a penis. You know, it's like we are in such a corrupt society that is what's happening. They're laughing at every ordinary person.
Can I just bring this section to it by saying I think that for me is the biggest thing of all. It isn't the lies or the sleaze. Those things are awful. It's their proclivity to screw the poorest and most vulnerable of society out of £20 a week in order to put it in the pockets of people who have so much money they don't know what they're going to do. They could never spend it in a lifetime. And they continue to do that. And I suppose the lie is that they're going to level up. We'll wait and see that. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much, everybody, for your comments on here. Kat Cray asked a really good question about the government's measures, Paul, to not self-isolate, stop self-isolation, and what's a union for that. We might pick that up in the after thing. Okay, end of the big story. Hello, Heather Swallow. It's so lovely to see you again. I hope you're okay. Right, next question. Crisis in the Labour Party. Laura Daly. Laura emailed me before and said the answer to all these questions. How great is the crisis in this? How great is the crisis in that? This is the most depressing meeting we've ever had, because the answer to all of them is effing massive.
Stand by that articulate comment.
Perhaps you might care to elucidate. How great is the crisis in the Labour Party?
For me, it's massive, absolutely massive, and I'll avoid the bad language. It's massive. It's really difficult because there's an argument. You get a lot of people going, "It's not our party anymore. It should be the party of the working class." But then you look into it and you go, "Was it ever? Really, was it ever our party?" But for me, for now, this is getting just unreasonable, unmanageable, unsustainable. Sorry to bring him back into it, but everybody else does, so I'm going to do it. Jeremy Corbyn got us out of debt. He got us out of debt. We were a solvent party, ready to go, because of the mass membership we had managed to pull together. The sheer amount of activism and enthusiasm those policies gave to people, brought people to the party. For me, that's the kind of party I want to be involved in, where everybody is enthused, everybody's working towards something, everybody's working collectively, proper trade union spirit, and so the money was coming in from members. I feel like now Keir Starmer has been having meetings with sort of rich donors, and he, I guess, felt like he was going to get that money, same as Tony Blair did, and has subsequently decided that members aren't important. And not only that members aren't important, but actually they're damaging to the way he wants to lead the party and the way David Evans wants to lead the party. Now, I know by Labour Party rules, I'm not allowed to have an opinion. I'm not allowed to talk about this. But genuinely, I don't care, because I'm not breaking any laws. This is really damaging to the people of this country. We need an effective opposition to this horrendous Tory government that continues to get worse and worse and worse, and people just don't seem to recognise it, especially when you've got an opposition who are going, I support the government. Then why would you vote for anything else if everybody's supporting what they're doing? It's just more of the same. So it's horrendous. That in itself is a crisis. We are shedding members. We are actively employing people to get rid of members for supporting, I don't know, different groups with different opinions. These groups are not terrorist organisations. Neither are they far-right groups or hate groups or anything like that. They are people with difference of opinion. If we are in a democratic socialist party, which we are, it says on the card, then we should be able to have a difference of opinion and debate that opinion. But unfortunately, we are being silenced at every turn. Members aren't important. Their voices are not allowed to be heard. So where do we go? There are people who are desperate for a Labour government, a proper Labour government to help them. People who are, disabled people, people who are underrepresented, people who work for the NHS, people who don't have enough money to live. People up and down this country, the majority of the people are desperate for a proper opposition, a proper government to come in and help. And we're not offering that. Instead, we are getting rid of the people who are fighting for that. That is a crisis, a huge one.
Paul, Laura mentioned it, and I was reading an article on it, that really the Labour Party is two parties, and the right is getting rid of the left, if not by expelling them, which is sort of they think they're not going to find anywhere near 1,000 people who are still members of the Labour Party who are members of any of these organisations, because they've already left. And if not by expelling them, by just depressing them so they just give up and leave, because it's not worth it. Do you think that it is inevitable that the party will split? The right are saying that they need to get rid of momentum now. Is it possible to have a broad church party under such circumstances?
In my experience, right, so I'm going to sort of go back a little bit and then I'll answer your question. In my experience in Sedgefield, and this has been our experience in Sedgefield, really, we're all members of Sedgefield Labour Party here. You know, that's not what socialist think tanks about. Socialist think tanks about ideas. It's not about broadcasting or Labour good or Labour bad or whatever. But, you know, we all experience certain things in there. And what I found is most people in the local Labour Party were nice people. Some of them believe strongly in socialism, like I do. And some of them are more like kind of neoliberal, I guess. Smaller government. And it genuinely happened. They were believed in PFI. And they really, really did. And some people just wanted power. But most people are just kind of reasonable and will go along with the idea of, yeah, let's create a better life for people. They're not as committed to a certain ideology as certain people. And what I found was when we behaved in a certain manner, those people, we being the left, when we behaved in a certain manner, we saw some absolutely appalling, screaming behaviour, like some really nasty stuff. And we still see it sometimes to this day, don't we? And these people really aren't there to improve people's lives. They're not passionate about that. They're passionate about themselves and their own power. And they get really, really angry. And if you can take that in the chin and think, actually, I'm going to rise above this because the only thing I care about is improving other people's lives, then people come with you. So everyone thinks that, like, we've got now in Sedgefield this socialist, you know, really socialist party. But we're not. I think we're just nice. I think there's a lot of nice people who come along and say, look, they've been nice. I like those nice people. They want to improve people's lives, so let's go with them, rather than the people who were red-faced and screaming at them. Like, you know, let's just distance ourselves from them.
Hang on, Paul, I'm going to interrupt you on that. I mean, do you think that we were too nice? Because all that's happened is that we've kept on being nice and we've hung on to our principles, but we've just been swept from position across the board, and the right rules the roost, don't they?
Yeah, well, yeah, so this is at a local party level where you've still got democracy. So what they've done is, in cases like that, the Labour Party, it's like two separate things. You've got like the Labour Party who are the members, who I believe the Labour Party are, and you've got the staff who I believe should work for the members. They might be members themselves. But what they've got is you've got that kind of angry, nasty people who've managed to put themselves into all sorts of positions of power. They resisted change within the Labour Party, and they took every opportunity they could. Like Peter Mandelson said, he worked every day to get rid of Jeremy Corbyn. That isn't a broad church. I don't know why these people think that. I don't know what they think the Labour Party is, and I don't know why they identify with the Labour Party. I know why I do, but I don't know why they do. I don't know. Like, we're supposed to be the party of the workers, so why is Starmer so keen to be pro-business? You know, like, that's fine. Like, a good business that treats its workers well, I'm not going to be going on and on about that. But Jeffrey Bezos going to space, I'll say it again, and everyone probably spit the coffee out again, but Jeffrey Bezos going to space in the penis, I'm going to say no, that's a bad thing. So, like, that's why I'm in the Labour Party. What do they believe in? I think they just want power. I think they just want to control things. And we saw a group of people who would much rather be in control of a Labour Party that is moribund, that does nothing, that nobody likes, than see a Labour Party in power under Jeremy Corbyn who are going to make change. It is the last layer of establishment protection. Labour is there to protect from change.
EMZ the socialist, when we stop being nice, we stop being socialists. Thank you so much for that comment, which is spot on. Stuart, let's just ask you the basic question. Do you think the Labour Party is in crisis? Can you see a way out?
Yeah, I mean, it's in crisis not just for the left or, you know, the right of the party. It's everything, everyone, every part of it is in crisis right now. The mechanisms, the staff being laid off, on a fire and rehire situation, that's a nightmare situation. You know, every aspect of the party is a crisis point, and the way out is, we start respecting people for the work they do. The huge commitment members, give us, because at the end of the day, having a rule book is pointless if there's nobody who's going to turn up to your meetings to try and change the world. Everybody who puts a load of work in, and there's lots of people who put, mountains upon mountains of effort in, helping in their communities, parish councils, authorities, like loads of work. They're doing it for someone, and most of them aren't doing it for themselves. Most of them, have a family member. They go, Christ, if the world's not going to change for them, I've got to do it for them. And if we start showing those people the respect and give them the support and the resources that they need, this wouldn't be hard. We'd change the world very quickly, but we're not. And that's sad.
Lilith Mooney, absolutely spot on. They are scorching the earth, so Corbyn can't happen again. That's a really, I think that is a key point, Lilith. That's right. I think that Corbyn scared the crap out of them. That's true. Stuart, just carrying on from your idea of respect, and talk to us about the NHS, because this was the question you asked to lead out on. How great is the crisis in the NHS? Can you outline the various ways that you believe the NHS is in crisis, and then tell us how great a crisis you think that is?
It's been a crisis point since Margaret Thatcher showed up, but the one that's all to do with respect is how we go about paying our workers in the NHS, and the absolute shit show that has been how we support those workers. The government has agreed in principle to a 3% increase, which was a step above a one-off 1.5% increase in the wages and a normal pay rise, of 1.5% to anybody above the level of consultant. So basically missing out a huge chunk of the staff anyway, because they weren't, highly ranked enough. And it's still basically a pay cut. We've now got, nurses and doctors out fighting to reduce their pay cut. That's where we're at. And the government is deeply unwilling to move anywhere close to the 15% that's being demanded.
Do you think there's any relevance in the fact that they're not giving anything to police and teachers, that they're on a zero pay rise? Do you think that the media's point is that they need to be grateful for the 3%?
Yeah, I mean, they use that kind of dividing tactic, don't they? To separate them out and say, well, I didn't get a pay rise this year, so why should they get one? And when in reality, when another group, another sector, another industry gets a pay rise, you can use that to leverage your pay rise. That's how you're supposed to go about it. But people don't see that they see somebody else getting something that they didn't. And the government goes about causing tensions and stirring the pot there to incite people there to dislike each other off getting what they deserve.
How would you address issues? I mean, one of the big crises, as I see it in the NHS at the moment, is the fact that we are having to delay and cancel routine operations in order to cope with the flood of the burden of people coming in suffering from coronavirus. How should the government deal with that crisis issue, in your opinion, Stuart?
It goes back to pay. You pay people a good wage, people that are inclined to be interested in that job, and then you support them through bursaries and grants to be able to go to university or do the training to take that job on. And the government's doing absolutely squat to actually encourage people to enter, a profession that society needs like nothing else. All the doctors and nurses take one day off. It's millions of people will be dead by the end of the week. Yeah. And people don't give that the kind of the recognition and the gravity and understand what a social good the NHS is. They see it as, well, it's a decent job and you get a nice pension. And it's grueling, awful work a lot of the time under, frankly, terrible conditions right now for next to nothing. And people are leaving in droves, and I don't blame them, really. I don't.
Now, somebody who I missed it on the chat, so please forgive me for not catching your name, but pointed out that this isn't just nurses. Janet Silver, that carers are in just as awful a position as nurses. Paul, what would you say is the biggest worry for you of the NHS?
Biggest worry for me is the stealth privatisation of it, and it was exactly what Jeremy Corbyn, who's been mentioned quite a lot tonight, but let's just say it, weren't things better when Jeremy Corbyn was actually telling the truth about these things and actually caring about our lives. But anyway, so he mentioned that there was a plan to further sell off the NHS to American healthcare firms. Now, I think what people misunderstood was that the Tories kind of got away with this thing, and the media really helped them to get away with this thing, that the idea of privatising the NHS would be us immediately paying for it. But it's not. It's back to that public money argument that I was talking about before. Public money that is invented by the government when they create new currency, which happens all the time, and banks do it too, and they can just invent money if they want, and the only problem is if inflation gets out of control and so on. But anyway, when they do that, that money can be, so they can they keep on investing more and more in the NHS, and they keep on saying, oh, we've put this much in the NHS and this much in the NHS, but that's going through private firms. And we saw when Richard Branson sued the NHS before he went up into space in his phallus, he had sued the NHS because they didn't give him a contract in the private sector. Now, if a job costs a certain amount of money, how does the private sector make more money out of that? Well, they either undercut, or they get too much money for it, they could have done it cheaper, or they pay people badly. There's all sorts of different ways the private sector can do it, but it all leads to a worse service in the NHS. And that's what's going on at the minute. So that stealth privatisation means that the public are still paying for this, just like they do in America, by the way. I believe it's 4 times as much public money goes into the healthcare system in the USA, and they pay for it. They pay for theirs because for them, again, it's a cash cow for the ultra rich, for big pharma and all those things. That's where we're heading. So what we'll see is we'll probably have some form of the NHS, but a much poorer service. There will be charges coming in and things. And then there'll be a 2-tier system. Like, if you can afford to pay, you can get this treatment. You can get your basics on that, but and that'll be what comes in. So that's what scares me the most.
Thank
and also
you, Paul.
just like this,
yeah, going to be tough on you because these are the short questions. Finally, Laura, the last word on the NHS from you is this effing massive as well? This problem?
Of course it is, but it's not a new one. I think we need to be acutely aware that this has been a problem that's been coming for a long time, and it has been sort of done in a really underhand way, behind the scenes, behind closed doors. Deals are being done, and we just don't hear about it. To the point where, like, even if you go and donate blood, that is now sold. It's not just given away. There is a company that is paid to take that blood and give it to somebody else. So something that you do as just a really nice person because you want to help someone now is monetized. It's absolutely a crisis. It really is. And we've talked so much about, and everybody talks so much about, how the NHS is one of the beacons of the UK and one of our shining lights, and as it should be. It's been amazing, but we need to go back to the purpose of it, and the purpose was that it was free healthcare for everybody. because a lot of people couldn't afford it. And now we're getting back into this hierarchical system of care where it's like, well, if you can afford it, you're going to get the best health. And it's not okay. It's really not okay. And there's a reason why, ethnic minorities and lower paid, lower income households are the people who are suffering most from the coronavirus pandemic, because rich people have the protection and the access to the best healthcare. That's not okay. This has been happening for years. There are bits of the NHS that are getting sold off all the time, and it doesn't go in the press because why would it? We don't know about it, but we really need to be aware that it is happening. It's continuing to happen.
Thank you, Laura. Again, sorry to stop you in mid.
It's okay.
But, we are 6 minutes left for the last topic. Stuart is by the way, everybody, the comments section is on fire tonight. Sort of Stuart's climate crisis. Are all these other questions irrelevant? We're all going to die anyway.
I mean, that's a little bit pessimistic. We are all going to die eventually, I would imagine, unless I get really lucky and I find a way out. It's a massive issue, and it's probably the biggest issue for our time, because if we don't sort this one out, all the other stuff that we've spoken about before is all going to be for naught. We are going to have a government that looks after its people if we don't have anywhere to live or we don't have oxygen to breathe. So yeah, massive, and you can't understate how massive the situation is and how quickly it needs to be tackled.
Paul, in your 2 minutes, do you have any hope for COP26?
For what, sorry?
The climate crisis meeting at Glasgow in November. The
right.
Climate meeting. You think
what I'm doing at the moment, what we're doing at the moment is I've realised that we are 50 years behind. We're 50 years behind the people who want to exacerbate the crisis, okay? So one of the reasons we started Socialist Think Tank is to try to get these ideas out, because we're sort of ironically named as well, because there really aren't any socialist think tanks. They're all funded by someone. They're always funded by someone like Charles Koch, who the whole point of what they were doing is trying to undermine the truth in order to serve their own needs. So as long as we've got these huge, well-funded researchers and think tanks and stuff, we'll always see facts like climate change being so, is it really though? Is it really though? And they'll put in that enough doubt, and then they'll turn us on one another and say, oh, they're putting microchips in you, so don't get free healthcare service because they'll only put a microchip in you to control you or whatever. It all comes from these horrible, horrible think tanks. These really nasty, it's. There's a book called Dark Money. It's worth reading. And there's another book called Copeland, worth reading. And it tells you all about what they do with regards to trying to undermine public confidence in everything. So we can have all these meetings and whatever, but unless you're dealing with these massive billionaires who can afford to spend all this money because of the corrupt system that we live in, the corrupt capitalistic system where money trumps everything, it's more important than work, it's more important than progress, it's more important than doing anything. As long as we do that, there will not be any change. So that's what we're trying to do. And maybe there's 50 odd people watching tonight, which is really nice on different platforms. Maybe if they go away and start telling their friends about these things, and maybe that's the only way we can combat this, through sheer numbers, because we're not going to beat them on money. No chance we're going to beat them on money, but we might beat them with people power. But we need to change the argument.
Laura, last comment from you on the climate crisis. How hopeless do you think it is?
I feel like that's longer than a minute. it's not hopeless. I think we are reaching the point of no return very quickly. We should have been tackling this years and years and years ago. No one wanted to listen. The majority of people don't want to listen now. It's terrifying. And again, I think a lot of the reason for that is because the first people it's going to affect are people from the Middle East and people who are othered from us. You know, the rich are going to be fine, so why should we care? And also there's this selfishness that, well, not in my lifetime. You know, you've got these like slightly older people who are just like, well, you know, I'll be fine. And that whole attitude is something that needs to change. We need to be internationalists. We need to look out for each other, and not just with climate crisis, but absolutely everything. But climate crisis is the number one crisis facing us all as a world. We are going to die, like quite literally, not even sugarcoating it. That is just fact. People are going to die because of climate crisis. And if people think that that's acceptable, then they need to have a good, strong word with themselves, to be honest, because, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm sure I don't do everything I could do. I do try to be aware of it. But until we start tackling huge businesses who are the reason that this is, you know, being perpetuated and happening so badly on such a massive scale, then we're the little ones. You know, we get told, oh, don't drink from plastic straws. And it's like, okay, well, I won't. But is that really going to impact the whole thing? No, it's not. Oil companies and corporations need to have a bit of accountability, but all they care about is profit, because they are the people who can afford to send themselves off to the moon in a phallic-shaped rocket to live there in like a total recall scenario, because they'll have the money to be able to build a whole new world for themselves while we all suffer. Capitalism kills.
Thank you. I was going to make a statement about it, but in fact you've said all that needs saying on that. It's the crisis facing us, and we need to worry about societal collapse a long time before we need to worry about the temperatures getting so hot that we all burn up. The international aspect of it, everything that you said was spot on there. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We're going to end now on that happy note, and we're going to take our normal short break while Joe Solo comes wafting over the North York moors through Gothland into Whitby and sings for 4 minutes. I'm being a little bit late to the thing because I've got to take the bread out that I put into the bread maker. Maybe there was reason in my chuntering at the beginning. We're not going to have as long in the second half as we sometimes do, and we do intend to take a lot for your comments and look at what you're saying. So perhaps if you don't put the kettle on, make yourself a cup of tea, come back and join us in 4 minutes time. We'll see you for the slightly easier second half of the show. God bless you all for joining us. Thank you for your absolute loyalty and activity, action to help the show. And we'll see you in 4 minutes. Bye-bye.
My name is Jack Atkins and I'm not afraid, and I live and die by this vow that I've made. The only good fascist, a dead one, they say, and a rhyme we are. When I first left all them months ago, I told him I'd come not to kill but to cure. For an ambulance driver, my shot's pretty sure, and a rhyme we are. There'll be no pass around, no pass around, no pass around today. The fascists have come for our freedom, we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no pasta around here today. I told my mother, now mother, be strong, for the left way is right and the right way is wrong. And you can stick that on my grave when I'm gone, for I'm a real we are. There'll be no passaran, no passaran, no passaran today. Fascists have come for our freedom, we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no passaran here today. Cast may be cast, and the cast may be cast, but you armies of darkness, you best do your worst. 'Cause to win, yeah, well, you gotta get past those first, and a armory we are. There'll be no passaran, no passaran, no passaran today. The fascists have come for our freedom, we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no passaran here, no passaran, no passaran, no passaran today. No passaran, no passaran, no passaran today. No passaran, no passaran, no passaran today. The fascists have come for our freedom, we ain't gonna give it away. There'll be no passaran here today. Keep the red flag flying here.
Welcome back. We've got a picture of John, we've got Laura's name, and we've got me and Stuart sticking it out here for a little while. Just before we go any further, while people are making their way back, can I please remind you all to do us a massive, massive favour, and that is if you've got a Gmail account or anything like that, just make sure you do subscribe to Socialist Think Tank on YouTube, because it really, really does help, and all our platforms as well. It's really nice to see lots of people on Twitch tonight. Well, not lots and lots, but more than usual. So that's really good. Great to see you there on Twitter as well. Please follow us on that. Like us on Facebook. And if you want to become a member, please do. We really appreciate when people donate, because it helps us do what we can do. John's got his bread there, so that looks really nice. It helps us do what we can do if you become a member at socialistthinktank.com.
If you had smelly vision, you would be just salivating now. I'm going to go away and take it back down.
Yeah,
Sort of.
we're so slick. There's me mid pitch for people joining Socialist Think Tank, and John's like, it smells gorgeous. But that was brilliant. That's what makes this show what it is.
Tank smells pretty good as well, I might say as well. Better than the stench of Tory corruption.
So we do appreciate donors, but you don't have to donate to be fully involved. We're also doing some regional shows as well. So we've got Socialist Think Tank West Midlands, London, and South East, which is really good. And we're going to be pushing as well for some what do you call issue-based socialist think tanks as well. So there's all sorts to go on. There's all sorts of things on our YouTube channel and our past shows, and listen on our audio podcast as well. Hello to everyone who's listening on the audio podcast, because we really like you as well, and that is really going strong. So we've got a lovely listenership on that. So do leave a little comment. Sorry for that massive plug. We'll go back to a normal show now and start listening to what you are saying in the comments, which have been absolutely outstanding tonight. Lizzie Fletcher's mentioning the Peace and Justice Project doing huge things around COP26. And she's also got a link in there to, I think there's an event tomorrow for, I believe it's for the South. So thanks very much for that, Lizzie. And yes, if we've got any Socialist Think Tank members in Wales, we're really trying to set up a branch there for M. So if we can do that, I think Wales would be a great place. I love Wales. What we need to do, Laura, who would be your ideal Welsh guest for a Socialist Think Tank issue? You're muted.
I know. I basically just said, "Oh my god, I don't know."
I think you do. I think it rhymes with cycle mean.
Michael Sheen. No, cause yes, please, but no, because this would happen. I wouldn't be able to formulate a sentence. I'd be like, "Love you," and that'd be it. And then that would be Socialist Think Tank done for any credibility.
Oh, so that apparently that Peace and Justice event was earlier this evening, so maybe check that out somewhere. And Rod Gilbert's been suggested as a good one. We're connecting here. So if you can connect on Socialist Think Tank as well, we've got Paul here, who's also saying that he might get involved in a Socialist Think Tank, which would be really, really good. We'll train you on how to be as slick as we have been tonight. You know, you two could play a song right in the middle of of someone talking and not really notice. So yeah, that could be you. But yeah, get yourself involved, because we're all about listening to ordinary people. Because ordinary people are so much more interesting than people that we see in the media all the time. So there we go. So that'd be brilliant. Yes, I like this cross-platforming as well. Okay, so
say hello. I don't know if people can see her. People wait for her. It's the last one for a few weeks. She's there. She's just dumped herself on the bed, but she's happy. She says hello.
Oh, also look out. I'm going to put some pressure on myself here, because I've already said I'm going to do this. For explanation in why it's economically illiterate to cut teachers' pay in real terms. So it's economically illiterate to freeze public sector wages. So look out for that one. And if you've got any ideas about videos you'd like to see or want to do yourself, do get in contact, and we'll help out as much as we can. And that's it. So have you got any questions? We've got Mark Drakeford being suggested as well, Michael Sheen, and Kat's half Welsh. See, we do love Wales, you know.
Does she know Michael Sheen though? Does she know him though? Does everybody in Wales know each other?
We hope so. That's the dream, isn't it? That's the dream. So any comments that have come up? Kat's mentioned as well. Kat's getting a lot of mentions here, but she's saying that there's the Ineos, a scum. They are, as a company, they're an awful company, but they're clever, sponsoring cycling teams while going to court to prevent lawful protest. This is one of those things. They sponsor like Formula One and cycling, and I absolutely love cycling, and I find it really difficult to see Ineos there, and the Ineos Grenadiers, when they've got this, like, they've decided to do a gas guzzler. Yeah, we'll name a cycling team, a sport in which you literally can propel yourself for no more than the food that you eat. But no, we'll do a gas guzzler. We'll associate it with that. So yeah. And I think it's Leanne's asking, can I do some impressions? I don't know. Maybe I can do some impressions in some videos. We'll see. Is that coming from the Starmer one?
Now. Do Starmer.
You need to know what to say with Starmer. He's a bit there, isn't he? He's what I will have no truck with is anyone with any opinions that would create radical change in this country. We do support the government, and we've always said that. And if you want to be a socialist in a democratic socialist party, then I think you will find you are in the wrong party. And yeah.
Electable.
It was forensic, that. Forensic. So, anything else coming in the comments?
Can we go back to the comment that was earlier made, and I forget now who made it, about the chaos that's being created by self-isolation and the pingdemic?
Yeah, I'll bring that in. I've just spotted one on the way past by Ruth as well. Ruth says the North Pole's already been sectioned off and dispersed among various countries, ready for the ice caps to melt, so drilling can begin on exploiting what's underneath. Hey, come on. Dear me. That's a shocker, that one. We've got a few questions coming in. So it's the pingdemic. Well, is that generally the fail of it? It's like, so the government is saying that some people are too important to self-isolate, aren't they? They're not important enough to get a pay rise, but they shouldn't follow that. And there's been an actual argument in the Labour Party over this, because Keir Starmer has disagreed with Unison, who nominated him. Unison is saying that if people want to self-isolate, or if people have been told to self-isolate, it should be their right to self-isolate. And the government are trying to say, well, actually, you can self-isolate because you don't do an important job, but you do an important job, so therefore we can't do without you, and you can't self-isolate if you've been pinged. And that's what this argument's about. And Keir Starmer has surprisingly sided with the government on this one, and apparently Unison are very upset about this. GMB have also refused to fund London Labour at the moment as well, so there's a big problem going on with trade unions in the UK Labour Party. So I'm talking loads, sorry. Who wants to speak?
No, I agree with you that this is, we should talk about this when we're talking about the Labour Party crisis, because the ultimate thing is that they're right in the party. They don't like the unions. They're all just a bit too troublemaking for them. And they talk about sort of giving a proper remuneration to workers and things like that, which is no good in the kind of neoliberal world that Keir Starmer wants to inhabit. And so there's always been this tension between the labour right and the unions. And of course, the big problem with that is that all their money comes either from the huge numbers of individual left-wing people who had joined the party and the unions. And sort of that's the crisis in the Labour Party. You're absolutely right to draw attention to that. Can I just reply to Lilith Mooney about the wobble of the moon? The moon isn't going to wobble. The moon wobbles in its all the time. Every 18 years, 18.6, I think it is, but don't hold me to that. It moves closer and further away every 18 years. It has this kind of movement like this. And so, of course, when it's closer, you have higher tides. And that's why they fear that the effects of global warming in causing higher tides will be exacerbated by this wobble of the moon, which is going to be at its closest in about 2030 onwards. And so that of course will fade then as it moves away again. But nevertheless, it means that they are expecting a lot of trouble with high tides, and of course London is just as much danger as the Pacific Islands. That's the worry about the wobble of the moon.
I think the problem there is, like, this has come out and you'll find some people saying, see, there is no climate crisis. These floods that are in Belgium and Paris, it's just the moon. These would have happened anyway. But, like, correlation doesn't mean causation necessarily, like with a lot of things, and I think that confuses a lot of people. So because this correlates with a load of floods, this moon wobble, doesn't mean that the other things aren't also playing a part in it, and the climate crisis isn't real. And I think, again, like I mentioned this earlier, the think tanks that try and put doubt in these things, and just 1% of doubt is enough to create a situation where the BBC or places like them will say, well, there's one side of the debate and then there's the other side of the debate, and each will have an equal weighting in this, even though we know they're not telling the truth, and we know these are telling the truth, or even go further than that.
Yeah, it was about a month ago. The BBC, in an effort for balance on climate change, on a BBC bite-sized educational thing, had listed the pros to climate change, including things like new tourist destinations such as Alaska may open up. New farming land may become available where there was once ice caps. New routes for transport might open up. And you're like, they're literally listing, like, it's like farmland might be a bit better in the north of Canada. Millions of people will die, but it's a positive. I'll try and track it down.
Dear me. Kat's comment about the flooding in London, she's saying it's not all rainfall, it's backwash surface water and the deficiency of drains and all those, like, legacy issues because they've got an old-fashioned sewage system. And that's right. And also you'll see more flooding as well because of the new farming techniques in countrysides. Obviously not so much in London, but because they aren't leaving fields fallow and because they're digging up the root system all the time, then the rain washes off with all the chemical fertilizers and stuff like that. If there's heavy rainfall, it will wash straight off the fields and straight off. Whereas in the past, the root system would have absorbed quite a lot of that and kept it under the ground, and that would have helped the crops as well. So this is all part of it. So this is why we're seeing, like, a lot of the time you can see this direct correlation between what we do and the catastrophes that people face. So modern farming methods are related to flooding as well. So
absolutely key on this. I mean, you know that this is one of my big things, when sort of, and we've reached in some places the point where the crops aren't growing on the soil at all. The soil, the structure of the soil, and the goodness of the soil has been utterly destroyed, and the crops are growing on the fertilizers. And every year they slam chemical fertilizers down. The crops grow on that, and sort of they have utterly destroyed the soil. Which I suppose, if they can go and sort of get that soil on the which is now permafrost, it'll give them some more soil to destroy as well. Maybe they're looking forward to that. Maybe that is a plus for those companies. And we desperately need to move away from sort of modern farming techniques back to more traditional and even no-till techniques as well. I've got a lovely comment from somebody here, and I've lost it, about, yes, Paul, please mention, where are all the people around the equator going to live? Absolutely critical point. And sort of, there is a situation. What you need to worry about most of all, Paul, is humid hot, because if you're just hot, then you can sweat and it cools you down. But when the humidity and the heat reach a certain level, then sweating does not cool the body down. You can't sweat yourself cool, and you die of heat exhaustion. And so a climate crisis with increased humidity and increased temperatures is massively dangerous on places around the equator. And of course, what can you do then in such a situation? If you are in the Congo, the government doesn't hand out air conditioning units to all the population and sort of have massive cooling fridges that you can go to when there's a crisis of heat humidity. You migrate, and you will have huge migration flows from the countries which are getting to be unlivable in, and they're sort of at that point, you're going to get, it's not going to be sort of 20 or 30 people a day coming across the channel. It's going to be hundreds. And this is where I say the big problem of climate change is not the actual damage that the flooding will do. It will be the societal and economic collapse under the pressure of migration flows, of not being able to repair the infrastructure as fast as weather events are destroying it, and how do we cope with that sort of within the neoliberal system? That's the big problem, and Stuart put his finger on the thing. We're talking about a situation in which society collapses, and people like us who can't fend for themselves, we just die.
Well, the rich people will be okay, though. They'll be in space I'll not say it again.
It doesn't matter anyway, because the displacement of communities isn't a problem, because we welcome people from other countries here, like, quite readily, in their droves. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't.
Yeah, imagine how full camps like Hassockfield will be.
Oh my god!
When the people from the equator have to come to other countries, and we've already established that we're basically that little island from This Morning that paedophile used to run around on. Sorry, he actually was a paedophile. That's not. Can you remember This Morning, that little
I know
island
who you mean.
of Great Britain?
Yeah.
And he used to leap around on that. And I think we had a joke before really early on in Political Unmuted, one of the first ever episodes, that like that was what people thought Britain was like. That's how big they thought it was when they were going, we're full. It would like fit about 8 people on. So yeah. Throwbacks, which is going to be happening all summer, isn't it, Laura? The throwback shows as well.
Yes. Well, it's going to have to. Yeah. I'm going to do clips from like past shows and stuff, trying to encourage people to watch, because we have like a ton of content that a lot of people haven't seen, and they're all amazing. So yeah, I'm going to be suggesting ones for people to watch all summer. So please do. You
two, I'm going to get cross with you on air here. You need to stop and have a rest. You're doing.
That word does not compute.
You need to have a rest and a break. Stephen Patterson, it's not all bad. You get better outcomes from major surgery when the moon's pull is at its greatest. If you need heart surgery, opt for it during a full moon. Is it April the 1st, everybody?
Correlation does not mean causation. I think Stephen probably knows this. There are all sorts of there's a really funny website. Well, it's funny if you're a nerd like me, where it's got loads of graphs where things link up, and it's like the length of people's skirts, and the stock market are correlated, and they always have been, and I don't know why. There's things like that, but there's this website where it's called Spurious Correlations. It's worth a look at, because there's some really weird things that are correlated, but you can't possibly say that one's causing the other. But yes, let's pretend that full moon outcomes are better.
Mark Lumley, I just love you. We can't deal with climate change without an end to capitalism.
Yeah.
Discuss.
He's correct. He's nailed it. Chris has asked what my thoughts on the plans for Hassickfield. I agree with the people who did the No for Hassickfield campaign. So that's another brilliant video you should go and watch. And as a county councillor, you should definitely be informed of what those people are saying. It was very, very well. It did it in a much better way than I could, but I agree with them.
Kat Cray agrees with me. She's a health and safety row, and she's happy to rep Paula and Laura and Paul. Rest benefits everyone. I think she's a rep, not a row. She's not a fish egg. But the fact is that sort of you two need to rest. Lizzie Fletcher talking about the fires in Russia. I mean, you've just got to go onto the Guardian website and put in climate crisis and look at all the articles. The Guardian is doing really well about highlighting them, even though it's not as left wing as you might want.
Shame, yeah. It's a liberal paper, isn't it? Laura Leanne saying Moon's Twilight, Team Edward Wraith.
No. Tell Leanne she's wrong and she's got to be Team Jasper all the way. Yeah. Trust me, I'm right on this.
Yeah. So, is that it for the questions? Are we going to say goodbye for 4 weeks?
I think.
Yeah. I think so.
It'll be our longest break from this show. I think the longest we've had is 2 weeks, which we had over Christmas, and then we had 1 week another time. So 56 shows in a year and a couple of weeks isn't too bad, is it? We've done all right. Thank you for those people who thanked us for the shows in the comments as well. It means a lot to us that people keep coming back, and it's kind of surprising, really, in many ways that people do come back. So thank you very much that you pay attention to us. But also at the same time, tell everyone to come and watch us. Because that way we can get the message out to a greater audience that actually we're just nice-ish, normal people. Well, you might think we're horrible. You might hate us. Many people do. But there's some, Laura. Let's face it.
I wouldn't say many. I don't think many people hate us. There are some.
Many people hate me. If I can chunter for a little while, first of all, we do need to say thank you, as Paul has done, to the people who come on the show live and on chat. We do try hard to incorporate it into the show, and sometimes we do better than others, I think, but always your enthusiasm and the depth of your insight continues at the same quality every week. You are so appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. And you must come back in September and continue doing that. Absolutely vital, because that's what makes the show different. It's sort of, we're a community, and my goodness, the truth that comes out of our community is stunning. So that the other thing I have to do is I have to say thank you to the team. We do have lots of occasional guests. Without them, the show would lack a lot of its luster, but the rock solid basis of this show is the dream team. Samantha, who can't be with us today, Stuart, Paul and Laura, you are amazing. And sort of, I'm going to be very upset if the comment stream doesn't echo that. If you're still on the comment stream, you need to be telling these people how good they are. And what a privilege it is for me. Because every Friday I go and I say, what questions do you want to ask? And you tell me the questions I want that you want me to ask. And then I come in and get these people. They do all the work. I just ask the questions that you tell me to do. It's a doddle of a job. And it's one of my weekly joys. We are coming back in September.
Actually, it's 31st of August. 31st of August, we're coming back.
31st of August, we're coming back. My golly. And sooner still. And we will promise to be better than ever and refreshed. And I've had a haircut. So I'm saying goodbye. God bless. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, listeners, watchers, and see you in August. Paul, you're the boss. I'm going to leave the last word to you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we will be doing some Socialist Night lives, and they'll still be going on a Saturday because that's our social life. We don't have anything else to do. Now we do. So we'll be doing that. There's some really important ones. We've got is it McStrike this week, Laura?
McStrike. We're also going to be speaking to a lady called Yvette, who is basically she runs the Justice for Grenfell. In a couple of weeks' time as well. So yeah, we have got some pretty cool stuff coming.
And then we're doing a collaboration with an American YouTuber stroke Twitcher at some point soon, which will be really, really good. So we've got that. We're going to do some more videos, and we're going to help set up those branches. So this time that we're going to be saving on a Tuesday night, we're going to be using that to build the message a little bit more. And just try and keep things going. So keep in touch with one another and keep looking after one another, because the government's not going to do it, and so we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do that together and support independent media. Got big plans, haven't we? Actually,
what?
We've got big plans, actually, haven't we?
We have. We can announce them when they're done, though.
Yeah, they're nearly done.
Nearly done. I think as well, for all of those people who do watch the show every week, thank you so much. It's just like the show wouldn't exist without you, as John said. If you do miss us in the weeks that we are going to be away, please do take the time to go back to our back catalogue. We have so much content on the website. Go and have a look. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get our algorithm up, so we need more people to subscribe to it if you like what we're doing. Please do that, and we're not gone. We'll be about. You'll see us. You won't get to have a break from us. We'll be about.
Stuart, have you got anything to say before we go? Because you've been just like, I bet you can do a brilliant one-liner or 10-liner.
Thank you for caring.
I like that.
Perfect. See you all soon then.
Keep the red flag flying there.